Happy Halloween. Hey creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. And on this very special Halloween episode of Library Macabre, I will be reviewing two haunted house themed books. I'll be reviewing The Hungry Ones by Chris Sorensen, which is the second book in the Messy Man series, as well as 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by J.W. Oker. 12 Nights at Rotterhouse follows a man by the name of Felix who is a travel writer, and he doesn't just travel around to beaches and fancy hotels and write books about them. He actually travels around to spooky locations and writes books about those. But he is really struggling to make a name for himself because his books are not selling well and he is having some marital problems. So he decides he is going to spend 13 nights in Rotterhouse, which is a house, I believe it's in his town, and this house is said to be extremely haunted. Like, all of this crazy stuff has happened there. There are murders like in every room of this house. So he decides to crash in this house alongside his friend Thomas. Felix and Thomas definitely have some beef. They had a falling out about a year ago, but before that they were best friends. They did everything together. They're into all of the same things. They would explore spooky places together. They would watch horror films, so they were the best of friends. But something happened that tore their friendship apart, and they hadn't spoken in a year. So now Felix decides to invite Thomas along so that way they may be able to reconcile or at least talk about what happened. And that, I think, is the most compelling part of this whole book. It's really a study of these two characters' relationship together and trying to figure out what the heck happened that tore them apart. And it causes a lot of tension in the book because here are these two guys who were best friends and they still share all of the same things together, but yet they kind of hate each other. But yet you could kind of tell that they love each other at the same time, and it causes a lot of conflict and a lot of tension. So all of this really creepy stuff is happening to them in this house, and I have to say there are some very creepy scenes in this book, one of which sent a chill up my spine, which doesn't usually happen, so that was awesome. But then you also have the human drama right on top of that that's causing a lot of discomfort and awkwardness, and it really added a lot to this book. The whole time I was just ravenous to see what is going on between these guys. And then as the house begins to mess with their heads and they begin to turn on each other, everything just escalates into a ball of insanity. Had a very, almost a Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe to it in that way. I would say it's more like a serious Tales from the Crypt, but it definitely has some humor scattered throughout, and I found the ending to be pretty good. But I don't think a lot of people are going to like the ending. I think some people are definitely going to be divided on it. I liked it, but I do know that some people are not going to vibe with it, which is the case for most books, but this is one of those endings that some people are not going to love. But overall, I thought this book was awesome. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I think what makes the book work is that J.W. Oker is also a travel writer. Like, for instance, he wrote this book right here called A Season with the Witch, The Magic and Mayhem of Halloween in Salem, Massachusetts, which is a great book all about Salem, Massachusetts at Halloween time. I love this book, and it's taught me a whole lot about things to do during the Halloween season in Salem, which is great because I'm going to be going to Salem next year, so this definitely put a lot of places on my list of things to see. But yeah, great book. He's also written a bunch of other books about spooky things. So J.W. Oker definitely has a lot of experience with visiting weird places and writing about them. So I think that's why the book feels so natural and realistic. He also has a podcast called Odd Things I've Seen, and it's about just him going around visiting odd locations and seeing oddities throughout the US, and it's very cool. I listen to every single episode, and I definitely recommend checking that out as well. So that is my review of 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by J.W. Oker. I highly recommend it. If you would like to read a copy of this book, it is out now, so I'll leave links down below in the graveyard where you can order your copy. Next up, I have a review of The Hungry Ones by Chris Sorensen. Now this is the second book in the Messy Man series. The first book is called The Nightmare Room, which I reviewed last year, and I loved this book. And I actually reread it in preparation for The Hungry Ones. I actually listened to the audiobook of this on Hoopla, which is narrated by Chris Sorensen himself, because if you don't know, Chris Sorensen is a audiobook narrator, so he decided to narrate his own books, which really adds a very special flair to the book. Reading the book and listening to it were both very different experiences, both great experiences, but the audiobook I think gave me an even better appreciation for The Nightmare Room. So highly recommend that if you've not listened to it, and even if you just want to read the book, it's a pretty good reading experience, I gotta say. But that leads me into The Hungry Ones. Now, this book continues off where the first book left off, obviously, so I don't want to say too much as to spoil anything, but the first book ended on a definite cliffhanger. So I will just say that The Hungry Ones is quite a bit different from The Nightmare Room. The Nightmare Room is actually a pretty simple haunted house story about a man moving into his childhood home with his wife and discovering that it is haunted. He is actually an audiobook narrator like the author himself, and he sets up a booth down in the basement, and his audiobook equipment starts picking up voices and noises, and it makes for some very chilling scenes. The Hungry Ones, like I said, picks up where The Nightmare Room left off, only we are following a different character at first. We are following this woman named Jessie who just purchased this old-fashioned motel, and she is opening it up for business. But something terrible happened there once. There were a bunch of murders, and the place may be haunted. And then that kind of ties in with the characters from the first book, and things start kind of overlapping, and there is a lot of weirdness in this book. It is not as simple as The Nightmare Room. This one, I had to stop a couple of times and be like, okay, we are doing something a whole lot different from The Nightmare Room. There's a lot more going on. There's all kinds of craziness and lots of timelines and weird interdimensional stuff happening. So I had to kind of reset my mind and be like, okay, this is not a simple story. There's some really weird Clive Barker stuff happening within this book, which is a compliment. I thought this book was crazy and very entertaining and super original, especially for a haunted house story. This book goes to some very crazy places, and we are introduced to some new evil characters, I'll just say. But we also have our cast of original characters as well, but not all of them are the same as they were in The Nightmare Room, which you would understand if you read this book. We have all of the same characters, but everybody was a little bit different. So this made for some very interesting reading, and again, it ends on a cliffhanger, just like The Nightmare Room. So I am eagerly waiting for the third book, but I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved it, and I thought it was even better than The Nightmare Room. So I recommend reading both of these books. Definitely don't read this before you read this one. You gotta read this one first. But pick them both up. If you like The Nightmare Room, you're gonna like this. If you haven't checked out either of these books, please get on it because you're missing out. Again, I will leave the links down below in the graveyard where you can order both of these books, as well as 12 Nights at Rotter House. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video and have a very happy Halloween. I'm about to go to my sister's to help pass out some candy, but it's gonna be snowing tonight, so don't know how much fun that's gonna be. We'll probably just watch a movie or something. But thank you all so much for watching this video. Have a very happy Halloween, and I will see you in the next one. Later, creeps. Hey creeps, thank you again for visiting my channel and for subscribing. If you would like to see more, I am on Twitter and Instagram at BookMovieGuy. I am also the co-creator of the Library Macabre Books Facebook page. Also, I am a horror author, so if you would like to read any of my work or check out any of the pages that I mentioned, I will leave the links down below in the graveyard. And lastly, I am on Patreon, so I wanted to use this time to extend a very warm thank you to all of these awesome creeps over here. Those are all of my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to say thank you so much, guys, and stay spooky.